Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you're having a good afternoon or late morning. And we're glad that you've taken some time out to be here with me. I'm Deanna Laird, and also with Yvonne Harris, who is our speaker this afternoon. So we really do appreciate your time and also your commitment to, I guess, this topic. We're assuming that you have an internship and really want to know strategies to make the most of it and help you to be very successful. So that's really commendable of you. You're learning as much as you can to do great, learn tasks and strategies to really take advantage of the opportunity you have in front of you. And I encourage you to have a pen or pencil and paper handy, or else ready to take notes on your iPhone, tablet, or computer, because Yvonne is going to share some really great tips for you to remember and to utilize throughout the summer. So take those notes. It will help you to refer back to them, and just really kind of almost a checklist of things that you can do. So with that, if you're getting ready to take those notes, let me open up and make an introduction, and also cover some items for effective use within the webinar on things you can do from a question standpoint, and also if you run into some issues perhaps with seeing the presentation in audio. So let me touch base on that first. If you do run into some technical problems, you can use the chat box within the webinar tool to let me know, and I'll try to help address those with you while we're live, okay? If not, do know, if your problems can't be addressed, do know that we are recording this, and you will receive a link to the recording in about probably early next week is when we'll be able to get that uploaded and sent out to you. It'll be on our YouTube channel, so you'll have easy access to it, okay? If you have a problem with the audio, and if you are listening to this through your computer, the connection via phone is sometimes much more reliable. So if you run into problems, click on the audio box in your webinar menu, and you can click on telephone, and it will give you a phone number and PIN or access code that you can utilize, and maybe just try dialing in with your phone, and maybe that will help. Okay, but again, if not, and if you run into problems, know that a recording will be sent out to you as well. All right. One other thing I'd like for you to keep in mind is about questions. So Yvonne is excited and ready to answer questions from you. We will hold the questions until the end of the presentation, so kind of stick around. And that way it's just a way to better manage the time. But we encourage you to ask questions throughout the webinar. And I will monitor those questions whenever they come in, okay? Even if they come in within the first 5 minutes, that's great. We'll keep a log of them, and then I'll pose those questions to Yvonne at the end of the presentation. So type them in while you're thinking about them, so that you don't forget what was on your mind. And you can do that in the question section of the webinar tool. You just type in the question, and I will see that you typed it in, and I'll see what the question is. Okay. With that, I am going to, I think we covered everything that you probably need to know to I guess, be an attentive and an effective listener and question asker. And so I'd like to go ahead and introduce Yvonne to you. She has joined us for a couple of webinars now, and her expertise, like I said, I think you will just pick up so many good pointers and advice that she has based upon her experience in the accounting industry. She has several years of experience that she has really drawn upon to come up with these summaries of advice to students and those in situations like you are at this stage in your career. So, this is based off of real world intelligence, I guess you can say. And she's, like I said, she's been in the accounting industry. She's also worked in other industries as well. So it's always good to have a broad perspective and bring together the best practices and the best knowledge to the forefront for you. Okay, Yvonne has a bachelor's degree in accounting, and she received that from Hampton University. And then she also has a certificate in human resource management, which she got from the University of Miami. And through her human resource focus in her career, she's held the senior professional in human resources certification since 2001. So again, many years of very solid expertise and experience that she's bringing to the table with you. And some of the roles that she's kind of exercised and gleaned all this advice from is through her her work with accounting organizations, public accounting firms, so a few of the largest ones in the U.S., where she was effective and responsible for implementing HR policies and programs, and really dealing with all aspects of employee relations. All right, and that included recruiting. Okay, so again, direct, real world, I guess down in the trenches type experience here from a policy setting and also practicing recruiting activities within top accounting firms in the U.S. And of course, as you probably know, an internship is really part of the recruiting process. So she's going to make sure that you realize that this is a continuation of your, I guess, interview with the firm. And it is a job, you're gaining experience, but it's also very important to recognize that this is an ongoing evaluation to see if you're a fit with the firm, but also for you to assess if you think that you would want to work at the firm. So with that, I know, Yvonne, you're going to talk in much greater detail about that very topic, and I will hand it over to you. Oh, I would like to note that Yvonne is actually at a training course today, and so she stepped out of that training course to do this webinar for you guys. And with that, that means that she's not connected to the webinar the same way that we are. So Yvonne and I are going to stay in real close communication, but note that we may have some comments back and forth to make sure that she's seen or she knows which slide that we're on within the webinar. So if you hear some comments like that, don't let it throw you. We're just making sure that we stay in sync so that her message is right in line with what you're seeing on the screen. Okay? All right, Yvonne, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks, Deanna. And I'm very excited to be on the call. And I appreciate the commitment that you guys have to making your summer internship successful. And the information I'm going to share with you is actually sourced from different places. So, lessons that I learned when I was an intern, lessons I've learned from recruiting interns throughout my years in HR, and just things and lessons I've learned from actual interaction with interns as well. So I know you've heard this a few times at least before now, but I will also say it again. So at the risk of being redundant, congratulations on your summer internship. I recognize that obtaining a summer internship is a huge accomplishment, and I want you to relish and enjoy this time, but I also want you to be thoughtful as to how you approach your internship. So if you're looking at the slide for the purpose of today's webinar, the purpose of today's webinar is to help us set goals, expectations, and I would say the right mindset to create a plan that will maximize your return on investment for the summer internship experience. So your mindset and your approach to your internship is very important. And remember what the internship really is, and Deanna alluded to this. It's an extended job interview process. So yes, the company will use the next several weeks to determine if you're a fit. But don't you miss the opportunity to answer the question if the firm is a fit for you your vision for your future. So while it's easy to say that your barometer for success for your internship will be determined about whether or not you receive an offer, I challenge you to also have different gauges for success. We will discuss the creation of a personal success plan on the next slide. And Deanna, if you don't mind, can we do a quick polling question?
Sure, let me get that keyed up real quickly here. Okay. Okay. They should be able to see the poll now, Yvonne, and ask everybody to start submitting your responses to this.
Just take a few seconds and give us your response.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close it because most of you have voted. And just so you know, Yvonne, since you can't see this on your screen, 80% has said that they've given a lot of thought, and 20% have they've given some thought to it. And then 0 about not having thought about it at all. Okay?
Right. Okay. Well, that's definitely directionally where we need to be. So for the 80% that have given it a lot of thought, it probably happened around the time you were wrapping up finals. I recognize that many of you are starting your internships. If you haven't already, you're starting it next week or probably the week after. So hopefully this call comes at the right time for you as you're headed into your internship. So let's talk about final preparation before your start date. And again, this is assuming that most of the interns are starting in the first week of June or the second week of June. From an HR perspective, you need to make sure you've turned in any requested documents prior to your start date or take them in on your first day. So that ties to be organized and be prepared. You know, you want to make sure that you're bringing your A game and that you're showing not only your recruiters, not only the HR professional, but keep in mind that there are a lot of other people connected to this process. And it makes a difference when you're paying attention to the details. It makes a difference when you show your firm of choice that you took the time to complete all required documentation in the time that it was requested of you. If you still have some paperwork out and you're starting next week, it's not too late. After you get off this call, why don't you wrap up that paperwork or make sure you get it in by tomorrow. But again, you just want to be prepared, and you don't want to be that person that's, you know, what if everyone else got in the paperwork and you're the last person who did not? You don't want to be that person. Confirm logistics for your start date. It may seem silly, but do a dry run to the office prior to your start date, driving during traffic times. So while it's not the end of the world, it can be unsettling to be late on your first day of work. I talked previously about being diligent about the administrative details, being on time, having all your paperwork turned in. Oftentimes you'll need to bring some things on your first day. Confirm what those things are and have those things. Be prepared. It sets you apart, and it shows that you mean business. If you know you're starting next week or the week after and you haven't talked to your recruiter maybe in few weeks, reach out to your recruiter or your firm contact and confirm that you've provided all the necessary information, confirm the start date, location, time, etc. Again, it just makes it seem like you know you're really serious about this, and also gives you a chance to rectify or correct any things that you need to get done prior to your start date. Last point I want to make here is that your university as well may need some information regarding your internship performance or the completion of your internship. Do not wait until the last day of your internship or the day before your last day of the internship to request completion of forms needed by your university. So if you need to reach out to your university contacts, understand if there are any evaluative forms that the firm needs to complete for you to get credit, or whatever the process is at the school. Take care of that today or tomorrow or prior to your start date, and make sure you give that documentation to your recruiter or your firm contact on the first day. And then also, too, as a courtesy, as you're wrapping up the internship, and I know Accounting Fly is going to have some other calls throughout the summer about things that we do throughout the internship, but one here is sending a reminder to your recruiter or contact about a week out from your last day, making sure that he or she has completed that paperwork for you. If you need time off during your internship, hopefully you've already made the request. If not, you need to do so right away. While most companies or firms are understanding that you may have a day or two already committed to personal obligations, they want to know at the beginning so that they can plan around that time. Keep in mind that your internship time is limited, so every day counts. So again, I don't think it's an issue of micromanaging here, but they probably scheduled you for certain clients or certain industries based on the time that you're going to be at the firm. And as a courtesy, you just want to make sure that you're communicating any days that you will not be able to go to work. You also need to confirm with your recruiting contact if there's any HR or payroll impact for you taking time off during the internship. Use this internship to determine, do you actually like the work? Okay, so now we're transitioning to creating your personal internship success plan. So assuming that this may be your first internship in professional accounting, do you actually like this work? Is this something that you can see yourself doing for a span of time at the start of your career? Do you like accounting? Do you like tax? Do you like the firm that you're actually interning with? Similar question, is this a firm that you see yourself working for in terms of your interaction with people? Okay, so do you feel like you could learn from these people? And I want to stay away from the comment of, do you like the people you work with? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We're not going to like everyone, but you need to frame it such that, can I learn from these people on a professional level, and do our values align? Okay, so that's really important as to how you look at it. How did you enjoy the client interaction? From a logistics perspective, how was your commute? So if you envision further out, if you think, after graduation, and I'm using this internship to help shape the first season or the first chapter of my full-time career, what if my commute is 90 minutes each way? Is that something that I really want to do for the next 3 to 5 years after I graduate? How important is that to me? And do I need to now gear my recruitment process and recruitment focus for the fall on something like finding a firm that's closer to my home or where I want to live? And then the inverse, if you're living far away from where you're working, is it the answer that you just need to maybe consider your personal living arrangements after you graduate full time? Also, what else is important to you? Keep in mind that the ultimate answer is that you need to find the firm. You need to make sure this internship, you end up with the answer of whether or not this firm is for you. So if you remember on the previous slide, I made comments about getting the offer is the barometer of success that many people use. Sometimes not getting the offer and not accepting the offer is greater success. Oftentimes when you learn what you don't want, it's a quicker path for you to get what you do want. So if you determine that some of those things just don't add up, I don't like this commute, I'm not really meshing with the people that I'm working for, I'm not sold on professional services as an industry, or maybe I like tax more and I want to go to a firm with a larger tax presence, it's still a win, okay? So still know that. because you can now spend your fall recruitment semester focused on getting to the firm that you want. I guess the last point here I'll make, Deanna, is that oftentimes there's a lot of pressure to accept an offer right away. And if you're given a full-time offer, make sure that you clearly understand the firm's deadline for acceptance. Take all the time that you need. If you need an extension, if you need more time, open those lines of communication with the recruiter, and then make a decision that feels right for you. Sometimes if you're not sure of an answer and you need more time, it's better to take that time than to say yes and have to unravel that decision. So again, whether or not you get an offer, whether or not you accept an offer, as long as you get the data you need, you've had a successful internship. I know I said a lot there, so let's take another polling question. Deanna?
Sure. Okay. So I've launched the poll about whether or not they've stayed in contact with their contact, recruiter or HR, since they've accepted the offer. And give it about a little over half have responded. Okay, that's a good jump. And I'm going to close it. And Yvonne, so you know, 80% said yes, 20% said no.
Okay. So for those of you that have not stayed connected with your recruiter, hopefully some of the tips that we discussed previously will remind you of the importance of connecting and reconnecting with your recruiter or your firm contact. You just want to make sure that you're prepared for the first day with the firm. Okay. Let's start strong on the next slide. And this is about starting your internship strong and starting to communicate your brand to the firm, okay, and helping to solidify or validate their decision to hire you. So the first point really needs no further explanation. Be on time or early to everything. Show your excitement for the internship and let your employer know that this experience is your #1 priority for the summer. Be engaged during orientation and training and ask thoughtful questions. And I want to differentiate this here. I know oftentimes we hear in school or in the recruitment process, ask questions, ask questions. I was never one to ask questions for the sake of asking questions, but when you're engaged and you're in tune with what's going on during an orientation, you're learning all about the new firm, et cetera, I think it's hard not to have questions. So make sure you're putting thought into your questions, and again, it shows that you're engaged in the process. You want to focus on the task at hand, and your cell phone should be tucked away and on silent. I want to repeat that. Your cell phone should be tucked away and on silent. So we're going to be engaged. We're going to limit distractions. And when I say tucked away, I think if you have it on your desk, if you have it in front of you, it's an attractive distraction. So if you put it away, you put it on silent, you're really showing that you're fully present, you're in the moment. And I advise that you only use the phone at the beginning or the end of the day and then during breaks. I know you guys are probably saying, okay, that just doesn't seem practical, but you're a part of the Accounting Fly community. You're connected here to get the tips that set you apart from your peers. So I'm going to tell you right now, your peers are not going to do this. They're going to be on their phones. They're going to be Googling, on Facebook, doing whatever they want to do. But from the perspective of leadership, you're going to be different. You're not on your phone. You're fully present. You're using it wisely during breaks, and you're branding yourself differently. Okay, so just some advice there. As soon as you get your email up and running with your firm, start emailing your contacts at the firm. So that ties to the point of network and reconnecting with those from the recruitment process. Let them know, your contacts, how excited you are to have started your internship, and start scheduling times to meet, be it in their office, over coffee, or over lunch. You're working your plan here, so you're using every meeting to obtain information related to your plan and what your success looks like. And does this firm align with that plan that you created, align with those objectives that you're trying to achieve, not only for your internship, but for that first span of your career when you graduate from college? And you want to ask questions. So you're meeting with the manager, and you guys are meeting over lunch. Ask yourself questions of inflection. Okay, what is it like to work with this person over a period of time? Is this someone that I can learn a lot from? And then directed questions that you're asking of the people you're meeting with. How do they feel about their work? How do they feel about the firm? What's their experience with their clients? Why have they chosen to stay with the firm? So imagine you're getting a lunch appointment with a senior manager in the tax department at your firm, okay? So, and someone who's been there since college. So if you look at the career span of a senior manager, let's call it 10 years with the firm. Gosh, you guys, that's 10 years worth of intelligence, worth of experience about this particular firm that you can just derive from this person, okay? And you can use it to either validate the things that you're experiencing even early in your internship, or it may set up more questions that you'll ask the next person that you're having coffee with or having lunch with. There is a point on the slide, it was point number 3. It's really just a cautionary point, but it's prepare for a lot of reading. So whether it be orientation or whether it be training, you know, there is going to be a lot of reading, a lot of attention to detail the first couple of weeks of your internship. Don't take it lightly. It's very important. And even just a small note, you want to learn about the firm, well, read the employee handbook. Okay, read all the material that they give you. You can learn a lot about the culture from the firm if you just take the time to read the materials. And I know everyone here on the call is a diligent reader, so you can just share that with your friends that maybe don't read. But again, it's just we take for granted oftentimes a lot of the information that we receive. And sometimes in exit interviews that I've either had directly with interns or received the feedback, some of their questions, some of their concerns were right in that employee handbook, or they were in that brochure that we shared either in the recruitment process, so go back in time a little bit, or something in the form of material that we gave them on the first day. And it just really showed that they weren't taking the time to read the information. Deanna, can you go to the next slide, please?
Sure. Did you want me to do that next poll?
Oh, sure.
Okay, great. All right. So this is the one that from a technical perspective, you know, how do they feel if they're prepared or not? So everybody, see, hopefully you can see the poll and start answering. Give it a few more seconds.
How ready do you feel to actually tackle the work that you're about to encounter?
Great. Thanks that's a much better explanation.
No.
Okay, I'm going to close out the poll. And Yvonne said 20% said they feel like they know what they're expecting and they're prepared, and 80% have a general idea.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're in a positive mental space about it, which is very important. You're going to exude the confidence that you need to do the task. And then let's talk about now doing the work. So I touched on this briefly on the previous slide, but the training is important. So the firms that everyone on this call is joining, most of these firms understand the importance of training. They're investing in you by putting you through training. And they need to know from you that you take this investment very important. You know that it's very important. So give it your full attention. Be engaged. Ask questions throughout the training. Oftentimes the trainer may not be someone that you're working with directly in the summer internship. So, it can create a safe space for you if you want to ask questions, but you just need that comfort to know that maybe you're not asking from your direct supervisor. And quite honestly, I don't think it's really going to make a difference because they're expecting you to ask questions. They're not expecting you to know. They're expecting your hunger, your desire, your want to learn. Understand what strong performance looks like. Okay, so we've talked about the end game, right? You perform and you get an offer. But at your particular firm, what does strong performance look like? Have you seen an evaluation? If not, ask for one. What does the internship evaluation look like? And you could either be evaluated as an intern, or maybe they have a light form of an entry-level hire. I don't know how the firm would do it, but ask for a copy of the evaluation and then review it and understand, okay, so they're looking for technical, they're looking for my communication skills, they're looking at how I solve problems, and just put yourself in the mindset to understand what it is that you're being asked to do and what strong performance looks like, okay? If that's not available to you, or maybe you're just not comfortable asking for it, go to the job description for when you applied for the job and review that, okay? So oftentimes through the college recruitment process, I find that some candidates aren't really reviewing the details of the job description, but the job description will tell you everything about what is expected from someone in this role, and you can use that as a guide too. So let's talk for a moment about what happens if you're not getting work. And Deanna, this is a really important point because we want to make sure that our interns know and feel like they have a voice to go to either a coach, a mentor, a manager, a supervisor, and raise their hands if they're not getting work during the internship. Normally there is some type of scheduling function, and depending on the ebb and flow of client work, there may come a week when you don't have assigned work. And in that case, and again, tying this back to your first week and asking questions, that's a great first week question to ask. Hey, what happens if I don't have work? What's the process here to raise my hand so that people who need staff or employees for jobs know that I'm available for work? Every firm, every department probably has some different system or different nuance to make that happen, and you need to understand that process. I would say to go a day or two and not have work is probably okay. Again, client work, ebb and flow. You're waiting on the client to give you something before you can actually start to work. But starting day 3, I would start pushing a little bit harder. Hey, I need some work. Are there any special projects I can work on? Is there anything else that I can do to help? Is there another department that needs assistance? Show your eagerness. Show that you are really wanting to learn and that you really don't want to sit on the bench or have downtime during your internship. Now, if there's simply a business reason and that work is not flowing through, use this time to do some online trainings available to you from the firm. You're studying for the CPA exam. There's nothing wrong with studying at your workspace for the CPA exam. So there's ways that you can take that time as well, maximize that time for your personal good, but it looks very professional to your partner. So your partner's walking by, he's aware that they're trying to get a couple assignments in the door, but he looks at your initiative to say, wow, he's not just sitting around on Facebook or social media during this downtime. He's actually studying for the exam, or he's taking this online training that was referenced during orientation. So what happens if you don't like the work? This is a very different issue, and it could very well happen. So you're really excited about this internship, but maybe you get in and you just say, gosh, I'm not sold on this. I don't know. Or I'm in tax, maybe I like audit better. Or I'm in audit, maybe I like tax better. Or this firm actually has some consulting services or internal audit services. As you're working your plan, these thoughts will come to mind if you're not necessarily feeling that alignment with the work that you're being given. I would say, though, that it may be very difficult to reset a direction during an internship. So while you may not be completely connecting to the work, I don't know that the firm would have a way to say, okay, Deanna shared this feedback. She's not really, not really sold on audit. Can we find her some tax projects? I'm just being very frank here. That may be hard to do. But if you stick it out and work through it in your exit interview that you're going to have before you leave the firm, definitely come up with a way to communicate that message and show that you've done the research. Hey, I like this firm. I like the people that I've been working for. I feel like I can learn a lot here and bring a lot of value. But I'm also finding that my personal interest may be more aligned with tax, may be more aligned with internal audit. And I had an opportunity to meet with a tax senior manager, to meet with an internal audit partner and learn more about those opportunities. Are these groups hiring? Okay, and then it starts the engagement of the conversation in a different direction. So again, a very different win for your summer internship, but a win still. And it's all a part of working your plan. The next slide, Deanna. So your internship, while the work is very important, it's not all about the work. And the relationships really do matter. And I can't emphasize this enough. I know everyone here on this call has an interest, a passion for accounting or tax or accounting-related topics or professional services. What really is going to make the difference for you, and there's a different answer for every individual, is how you connect, how you sync with the people and with the culture. So in everything that you're doing, while you want to obviously hone in on your technical skills and develop that, you really want to understand the firm's culture with every person that you meet. And I can't emphasize this enough. What's going to make the difference for you in every season of your career is how you connect with the people that you work with. And again, keep in mind too, it's not just the people at the firm, it's also to any connection, any relationship that you build with clients that you serve as well. You want to make sure that you establish authentic connections at all levels in the organization. So you're coming in as a summer intern. I think it's great to get to know every summer intern there, regardless of department, regardless of business unit. That's wonderful. But keep in mind, too, you want to connect with others in the organization as well. The entry-level associates, the senior associates, the managers. These are the people that you're going to come back and work for and that are going to influence you and you're going to work with day in, day out. What are those interactions like? Don't forget about the administrative staff, the support staff. What types of relationships are you building at those levels? So whether it be the executive assistant who leads all of the assistants for the audit department, your HR department, your IT department, again, building connections. And don't hesitate to find a connection at that partner level, that leadership level, that can be a really helpful connection to you going forward. So there may be a partner that you find who's an alum from your school, or someone who is very instrumental in your recruitment process. You want to make sure that you're using these 8 to 12 weeks of your internship to continue to invest in that relationship. And then find 2 ways to expand your network beyond your firm. So if you know other interns who are working at other firms, make sure you stay in communication throughout the summer. What a great measure of comparison on how your internship is going when you have an internal comparison And then you have an external comparison as well. So maybe another firm is doing some type of assignment that you think is really cool or interesting. Maybe you bring that to your team leader or your manager and say, hey, is any of this type of work available? I'd like to do this as well. And you can just hear from each other as to how internships are going. And then if there's a way to get involved in a community service project, if that's your passion, a lot of firms do some type of community project and maybe utilize the summer months for that. Participate. It may happen on a Saturday, but it's a Saturday, that's a great investment of your time if now you're getting a chance to meet and network with people you don't work with every day. They're in a different department, or they came in for this community service project, but they're also in the audit department, but they spend all of their time out at the client, which is on the other side of town. Okay, so you've had a chance to build your network now in some creative ways. And then again, it's keep working your plan. So Deanna, now we're on next steps. And I mentioned previously on this call that in July, Accounting Fly will host a webinar. Is your summer internship all that you thought it would be? So we're really just going to do a calibration and a touch point and just say, okay, we had a chance to touch base before the internship started. We shared some advice. We, gave you some thoughts about how to approach the internship. Now what's happening? How's your experience? Give some feedback to us. What are some things that, maybe you would have liked to have touched upon before you started your internship, and how is it impacting you? One quick watch out, and I put it on this slide, and it ties to a point that I made earlier and really talked more about your phone, but watch all social media usage during your internship. This has become a hot topic in many firms, and I just want you to be very careful about your social media usage, not only time that you spend on it at work, but be very careful and cognizant about what you're posting during your internship, especially as it relates to your experiences with your firm and your work. And this is definitely time to practice. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all, and definitely don't put it on social media. Deanna, I'd love to take questions. Did any questions come through the queue?
Okay. I have a couple here. Let me switch to the last slide, and I'll make a comment about, add some questions now, but if you do have questions that come to mind, in an hour from now or a week from now, jot down this contact information. It's my email address and my phone number, and I welcome you to contact me, and then I can then filter them or send them on to Yvonne, and we'll make sure that we'll get a question back to you. Okay? So
absolutely.
Just keep this information that you see handy if you need to use it after we close out today's session. All right, so Yvonne, one question was back on the slide where you said if you're not getting work, what do you do? And I think that you mentioned, 1 or 2 days without work. It might just kind of be a ramping up type period, but you definitely need to vocalize the fact that you're not getting work and that you need work. But the question is, what if you still don't get any work assigned to you? How far do you take the alarm or the red flag, and what do you do in a situation like that?
I would say the first day you don't get work, you need to follow the process of letting your leaders know that you do not have work. And it's a daily touch-in, a touch point every single day until you get work. Your responsibility in this is to make sure that you are vocalizing the fact that you want work and that you do not have it. And if the the normal process isn't working, okay? So if you're going to the scheduling manager, let's call it, and she's acknowledging, hey, we need to get Deanna some work, but nothing's coming through. If you've been working your internship plan and you're making connections, I would say around day 3, you need to start working your network, okay? And just saying, hey, I've followed protocol. I've let Yvonne know that I don't have anything on my schedule. Is there anything that I can help you with? Okay. Now, the win here is it may not speed up the process. It could just be, Deanna, I love your term, that there's a week of ramp up that this client needs and you just have a dead week and it just is what it is. But now look at how you've branded yourself by having positive interactions with people that leave them thinking, gosh, that was great. Deanna's really eager for work. I'm glad she reached out to me. I didn't have anything for her, but I'm really impressed that she took the initiative.
So I'm just curious, my own curiosity, your recommendation of what they do in this time where they're waiting for work. How do you suggest that they fill their time? Maybe training or, research on their own? What are some options that they could undertake so that they're still utilizing the time and could help them look even more impressive of, taking the time that they have to do something very productive?
Well, how they charge the time is determined by what they choose to do. So, Deanna, if they want to take advantage of some online trainings, et cetera, there are probably training codes that they could utilize for that. If they are undertaking some type of research or those types of projects, there are codes for that as well. Now, if they're studying for the CPA exam, I think that would just be based on the policy of the firm. That time may have to be charged to admin time. I'm not exactly sure. You could look at the policy for your firm. But, charging time to admin, I wouldn't say, think of that as a negative at all. It's what you're doing with the time. If you're being productive, but it falls to an admin code, and I'm going to say this a little lightly, who cares? Okay? Just make sure you're being productive with the time. And if you're making your rounds in the morning, hey, it's Wednesday morning, I'm talking to the managers, I'm reminding them that I'm looking for work, but I'm at my desk, I'm engaged, I'm doing a training, I'm, doing some CPA study ramp up. When that work comes, if it comes Thursday morning, I'm probably the first person they're going to.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to read a statement kind of verbatim and make sure I don't interpret it incorrectly. In auditing manager statements like mark to market, etc., how would you suggest we approach things that seem wrong or at worst fraudulent?
There are structures, processes, systems in place in all firms as to how you would handle these types of situations. So this ties to reading your employee handbook, understanding processes, whether it's something that needs to go to HR, whether it's something that you would need to contact an ethics officer or utilize an ethics hotline. There are resources available to not just interns, to all employees, if there's some issues that need further attention or investigation.
Okay, great. Okay, we have a question from someone who's, has an internship that sounds like it's a great opportunity. It's with the Big Four in advisory, but it's a bit different than the experience that this person's had in the past, which has been retail for most of the time up till now, and it's a bit scary, right? So the first example, I guess, of a big change is they're asking them to fly to training, right? And never flown without parents, and it's just a big change. So how do you suggest that they smoothly make a transition like this from really, kind of being supported and handheld all the time to being counted on by their team?
I think this is where you're going to have to really draw on your own personal confidence and embrace this moment. Gosh, I think about the first time I flew by myself, and I remember And I don't know why, I just felt so overwhelmed. I guess it was a new or different experience. But the firms are looking for people that are going to embrace new opportunities. So I think it's okay to feel nervous. I think it's okay to feel a little overwhelmed. Label this whatever you need to label it, but now let's peel off that label and let's counter that label and let's show the firm that we're embracing new, we're embracing different. And I'm sure your firm knows that this, is very new to most of the interns that are joining. And you just want to make sure that you walk in the confidence and knowing that you're going to thrive in this. And it's okay to be nervous, but don't let that overwhelm you.
Okay, great. We have a couple of more questions here. So those of you who want to ask a question, get it put into the panel for us while we cover these next two. On the topic of finding out during your internship that the work isn't really what you want to do, how is it appropriate, or when is it appropriate to make the connection with someone outside that line of work? And I'm thinking back to what you said, Yvonne. You mentioned perhaps having made contact with another partner, say in auditing, but you're currently in tax, to help validate that interest. But should you make that contact after you let your current manager or partner know that this isn't quite the area and you want to reach out, or should you feel free to make contacts and build your network with others outside your department before you communicate kind of what you're leaning towards?
Okay, so I'm glad you're asking the question, and this is an area that I want to put more caution tape around, okay, because how you approach this really is going to make or break the difference into how your message is received. Keep in mind that you're there for an internship and just for a very short period of time, okay? Others may perceive it, like if you're in week 3 or 4 and you're, telling people, I really don't like this work, I really don't like this work. It could be perceived that you're not even giving the work a chance, okay? And then, whatever could be associated with that, not dedicated, not engaged, etc. There could be some fallout to you that you're not intending, okay? So again, we're having this behind the scenes discussion, and I'm throwing that out as a real point to say you may find that you don't like the work, okay? But it's really more of your learning, your lesson, your working your plan. And how I would approach it is as you're still networking with people and as you're validating your decision either way, I like the work, I don't, and you're still building your network, as you're networking with people in other departments, you're approaching it from a positive. And you're asking questions about what they do and how do they like their work, and what does an entry-level associate that comes into that department, what does their workload look like? And you're comparing and contrasting, but not at the expense of the department you're working with, okay? Because, again, I would hate for you to, honestly vocalize, hey, I'm not really sure that I'm, liking this tax work, but for your message to be distorted and for it to come across like you're complaining, okay, or that you're being negative, when that's really not your intention. But you're building relationships here. You're getting to know people here. And you need to make sure that you know your safe space before you start saying these things. And again, I think it becomes a discussion that maybe happens at the end of the internship. So you've honored your commitment to be an intern in this said department, because it may be very difficult for you to do a switch. And then it's a much more productive dialogue where you're saying, okay, I went through the whole summer internships, and, while, the work was okay, I also had a chance to meet with some partners in another line or another department. Talk to me about opportunities to potentially join that department. That's a better place to have that discussion.
Okay, so Yvonne, what about this scenario where it's come to offer time, and again, you had an internship in tax, but you really think you have an interest in audit. Your offer comes in tax. And, you know, perhaps you've had the discussion that you don't think that's your area for you, but is it feasible and realistic to think that a one viable alternative would be to go ahead and accept that offer in tax and then perhaps move into audit a year or two down the road? Or should you really hold out for, even with another firm, an offer right out of the gates in what you feel you really want to be in?
I think this depends on the individual and the story they're writing for their career. I think the internship gives you a great opportunity to assess what it is that you want, more importantly, assess what it is that you don't want, and choose your next step. There's no reason to wait a year or two and to do a switch if all of your arrows are pointing towards this may not be the fit for me. But I think the point that Deanna embedded in her relay of the question is whether or not you can make the departmental or business unit switch at your firm, or if you have to be open to joining other firms. You just need to be open to that experience. So, you really enjoyed the people at the firm you're working with, but you're not sold on the business unit they can give you an offer for. Well, they're great people working at all the firms. So you use your recruitment process to assess another firm that you can join. You can connect with the people there, feel those authentic relationships building, and then you get the business unit that you want to join, be it tax or audit.
Okay, last question that we have, it's also related to, I guess, the offer and really the acceptance process. You did mention about making sure that you're ready to accept the offer or make your decision on the offer and not be rushed into it. But what if a firm has a pretty early deadline and really is forcing you to make a decision early in the recruitment cycle when you're not quite ready, or else the offer will expire? How do you handle that?
Well, the first thing you can do is to let the firm know that this deadline just doesn't mesh with the time that you need. Would they be willing to extend it? Okay, so there's communication that can happen around this process that may be able to help you. If they're willing to extend, then that's a win-win. You get more time and they know that you're still considering the offer. If they're not willing to extend and you need more time, again, Deanna, some of these questions are just really on what your personal comfort is. If you know that regardless of, other factors, if this is not the offer that you want to accept, to me, it doesn't matter what timeline is around it. You know in your gut that this is not the offer for you, and you need to put the energies towards looking for something else, okay? If you're trying to play it safe and you want to accept the offer because it shifts your energy and you feel more confident at least knowing that you have an offer as you pursue other things, if that's, how you prefer to do it, you can do it, but you're creating now another issue where that if you do find another offer that you choose over the one you originally accepted, you are now having to work through the rescission of your original offer acceptance. And that's probably, Deanna, a whole nother micro topic in and of itself. So I think you have to approach the process with as much integrity as you can. And to me, it's you've done your work. You've been now for 12 weeks in this process. What is your instinct telling you? And let that be your guide. And if your instinct is saying that this is not the job for you, trust your process, trust your skills, trust your experience, and trust that something better for you is going to come in the fall recruitment process.
Okay, great. That's just great advice, Yvonne. So that's the last question that we have. So thank you once again. And those who have been listening in, I hope you got lots of really great tips. Wasn't this great advice? I mean, really some actionable items that hopefully you can use and really make the most of preparing, getting ready for, and getting your internship on a very successful path. So let me remind you before we close that Yvonne alluded to it earlier, but she'll be back with us towards the end of July, and we'll kind of do an assessment of how are things going, right, and things to do now at this stage in your internship. So keep an eye out for upcoming webinar announcements so you can join us during that one too. It'll be a really good check back in type of time and process for you. And then also we have these webinars once a week, different topics, and I just want to alert you, if you have not been notified yet of next week, so send me a note, because with you joining the webinar today, you'll be added to our email list, but I don't know if you've been notified that we will have a webinar on government jobs and kind of what the government can offer to someone that is building an accounting career. And we have a representative from the IRS who's going to speak. So it'll be a really interesting webinar to talk about that unique career opportunity with various agencies and departments in the government. All right, so you can just send me a note. I still have my email address up on the slide, so jot it down real quickly before I close out the webinar. And I thank you all for coming. Yvonne, I thank you for presenting and for being such a thorough and terrific provider of advice and intelligence. So I really appreciate it. Everyone, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll talk with you soon on another webinar. Take care.